I think the idea was for the fresh meat to come up here and say, you know, here's how we got here, and from my perspective. And since I'm not a GIS expert, I promised my team I wouldn't show any maps and embarrass them. And I will just talk more about our organization, the strategy, the transformation we've been through. And hopefully some of you who might not be doing things at an enterprise level yet will take away a few nuggets, and it might be something that helps you. Let me see here. So 18 months ago, we identified a change that we wanted to happen that would put us more in line with our CEO's vision for the company. And that was really to go from what you see here, from maps to an information system. We didn't want to be known as mappers, and we didn't want to do any more logo maps and heat maps and all that. And we really wanted to be managers and experts in this information system. So that may seem incredibly obvious and natural to make that shift to you because you're in the geographic information system business. But you know, even though I respect my colleagues and competitors in the room, clients, you know, and have a lot of admiration for them, I would say the vast majority of the real estate industry doesn't get that. They see what everyone here does and what we do as pretty maps and visualization, and that's about as far as it goes. I wouldn't say there's a lot of connection with GIS to most technology and data teams within large real estate companies. There are some exceptions. I know JLL and others are doing things. But again, that's the very pinnacle and sort of the tip of the iceberg there. Most of the time in our industry, I feel like GIS is more aligned to research or maybe even marketing, and that's just kind of where they are with this. So for us, this was a big transformation, a big step that we wanted to take. Just a little bit about CBRE for those of you who might not know. We are the largest premier global, fully integrated real estate service provider in the world. Over 100 years old, about $11 billion, excuse me, in annual revenue. And the only real estate company on the Fortune 500 list at about 321, I believe, and have been on the most admired list for the past 3 years, I think. So I say all that to say we're really big and we like to make money. And my team told me not to focus on that. And I'm comforted that in this business summit setting, because they told me, you know, that rest of the world was out, you know, rest of this conference, everyone at this conference was really out there like saving the world with GIS. And so we were like the evil business people within GIS. So anyway, but we are big and we do like making money, and we are in real estate. So that's CBRE. Now GIS at CBRE, this is my story. I wasn't at CBRE in 1999, so this may not be completely accurate for those who might be periscoping this or recording it or anything else. But basically my story goes that prior to 1999, it was chaos. Mostly the GIS capabilities were spread all over the country and left to local managers to decide how much they believe in GIS and wanted to focus on it. And then in 1999, CBRE centralized the GIS function underneath a mapping center in Phoenix using some technology we won't talk about here. And that was a pretty successful model for about 15 years. And it grew and it shrank and it grew and it shrank. And they added capabilities and developed technology, developed an incredible map ordering system to handle all the volume. And by about the time I came on the scene in 2015, it was tens of thousands of GIS products every month, and just like 250,000 in demographic reports. And so very big, and they were thinking about, okay, this has been great, but what does the future look like? When we set up this model, we all had Nokia phones, now this model feels a little out of touch with the current realities and technology, but didn't really know about how to make that transition with all the volume, right? We got to keep up with business. So that's where we were. And about the time the team was pondering that, our CEO came out with this statement. And it was really that, we're big, we can talk about being the best in the industry, we're right at the top with our competitors, but that's really not good enough, and that's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on being world-class and being compared to the best companies in any industry. So we really started taking that on. All the leaders started thinking about that, and we started thinking about what that meant to GIS. So with our 1999 model, with the centralized mapping center, were we really world-class when we compared ourselves against GIS at any company in any industry? Along with that, and a couple years later, kind of in between that statement and this memo, I had come into a role where I was helping to centralize some advisory services teams and form a new nucleus for us. And that was really building up momentum. And in that nucleus, we brought together some location analytics teams that were focused on financial services and healthcare and retail. And we also, I think it was by pure chance, we brought the mapping center team into that advisory group. And it really started building momentum, all the things we were doing with advisory services, which included everything from incentives and workplace strategists to labor analytics and other things. So advisory gained so much momentum that this year, Jack made this statement and basically said, we're doing away with the brokerage name that we've had for 100 years, and we're going to start calling ourselves Advisory and Transaction Services. And in this memo, he specifically mentioned location analytics, which was a big deal for all of us to sort of be put in that spotlight. So I love that you talked about the language, and I put this up there just to give you an idea of how we were thinking about the language. And it was very painful going through taxonomy and finding words that worked for everybody, even within our own company. So, we put the mapping center underneath advisory services and included a couple location analytics teams. But really, we formed an entire new organization under advisory services. We called it location analytics because it fit what we were doing the best. And so, for us, everything's location, so it makes sense. And then analytics, in the broadest term, sort of fit everything. And then within location analytics, we decided to organize around two terms. Predictive analytics, and we really strengthened that team with the acquisition of Form Analytics last year. And we feel like that brings predictive analytics into our company in a very strong way with a lot of integrity about how we do things there. So that was great. And then we took most of the GIS team and moved them into what we call our market intelligence team, and really started focusing. I love the shopping center group talking about the local market knowledge, and I know that became our focus here. So our clients really can go anywhere to get national data sets and visualize them and do those things. Really what they want from CBRE is that local market intelligence. And with 80 US offices and 400 global offices, that's what we're best positioned to do is, sort of get analysts to extract that knowledge from the local market teams and put it in some kind of usable format. So that became our focus. And then we really decided to mess things up, and we introduced this term called a enterprise location intelligence system or platform. And we said, okay, that's what we're going to use to tie all of this together. And that didn't go over so well. We basically got a big, a what? And then we spent about the next 6 months trying to explain what that is. And that's tough when you think about CBRE. Most of you probably have some kind of image of a broker in your mind, but again, we have everything from environmental consultants and energy consultants, and yes, we have FM and project management. So what does an enterprise location intelligence platform mean to all those groups is very hard to explain in a way that gets your project approved. I was telling a lot of the Esri team, it was sort of like explaining to our executives how they were going to use an iPhone when they had never seen a smartphone, right? We'd start very high level talking about all this broad stuff and we'd just lose them. And then we'd get really micro and show them this one app, and then they would think, okay, you're just talking about that one app. And we're like, no, that's not it either. So we struggled with this, and we spent months and months creating all kinds of visualizations and mock-ups, and had no less than probably 100 presentations. So we did all that, and then we also had this, and why partner with Esri on this? And Google is like this weird blessing and a curse to the GIS industry, I think. And it's great, everybody learns about maps and technology and stuff, but it's also bad because everybody thinks everything is just Google. So that's sort of where we were with our enterprise location intelligence system. One of the things that really helped us start breaking through is we said, okay, what this is going to allow us to do is redistribute our team. Not all of our team. We're going to keep some hub, but push further out with the spokes. And so what helped sell the platform was the fact that we could start putting more GIS professionals in the local markets, and we could start really empowering the professionals in the field with handheld applications, desktop applications. And so this is by the way, this is my cartography. So if you see Marco Harma, the head of our GIS team later, just don't tell him about this. Just leave this part of my presentation out. I would have put the thousands of dots on here to represent all the users, but I just didn't have the patience. So that's kind of what we were doing for the last 18 months. And the next few slides I was going to talk about how we approached that. And thankfully, at the very beginning of this, we had a gentleman involved from our IT team who became our business relationship manager. And he said, you know what, this is perfect. We want to put this into a IT capital project. And that really started us off the right path. That put us in the right kind of process to be successful with this and to make this change. When we started, there was actually certain people within our GIS team that said, you're going to waste your career pushing this, right? This has been tried before. So I was so thankful for our IT partners for really giving us a path forward here. And you can see we started in December of 2014, making all those presentations, gathering some steam. And then we had to create a business case for this process. And the business case ranged, I think it started maybe 12 pages and went up to 60 and then came back to 16, and about 200 revisions later, we had something that we actually sort of liked and it worked for most people. And through that, right away, we got involved with a project management office. A PMO was assigned to us, and you'll see the architectural review board. And I've heard various stories from different people about some of these systems and the difficulty of working through kind of your corporate IT security and everything. But having that architectural review board very early in this process and gaining their support and their partnership, I think was key later on, because then we could get past the hardware and the security issues and everything and not focus on it so much again. We had built that trust within the organization. So after we got through the architectural review board, the IT organization, that group also says, okay, this fits within our range of products here too. It doesn't overlap with too much. So from there, we were kind of said, okay, you can start politicking for this. So this socialization process that comes next, and CBRE loves that word. We love to socialize things. So that is nothing less than a full-blown presidential campaign. I mean, we are kissing babies and shaking hands and doing all those things to try to get our project approved. And but it's really good. It's a really good way of going about things, because we're also gathering feedback. we're hearing what people don't like about it, we're seeing their viewpoint, we're understanding that they don't think like we do, and we're taking all that into account in our language and stuff. So we're refining our message to the organization through all of that. And then finally, after we sort of get through those senior executives and it culminates sort of with IT and finance, then we get to go through the actual stakeholder approval. At this point, most of them have heard about it, and it's just kind of the formal review of the documents and the approvals, and it goes all the way through, our finance, CIO, chief administrative officer. And at that point, you're ready for the capital committee in this IT-driven sort of process. And the capital committee at that point is really just reviewing your business case one last time and giving you approval. And we were very much at this point looking at all of this as a capital project. And then we get into procurement, which is procurement. So, there's always challenges there. But it was smooth by this initial process, and also smooth because we told them right up front, we're only looking at doing this project with Esri. So if we can't make it work, if we can't make economics and everything work, then we're not doing this project. So that's where we were. The one snag there that we hit, and we did have to slow things down for at that point, is the way we were rolling all our license in. CAPEX was great to get the process initiated and to move the ball, but then we were creating OPEX liabilities for ourselves in future budgets. So we really had to take a step back, and if I did it all over again, I would make sure we were working on this much earlier. But then we had to get multiple years of OPEX budget approved sort of towards the end of all this. And this isn't quite right, but you can sort of get the picture. In the first year, you're capitalizing a lot, and then later you're having to roll it into somebody's budget. So, but it all worked out, and we were finally allowed to go forward. One of the last pieces of that OPEX portion was, our executives in the real estate world have really been burned by technology a lot, and maybe our own fault because we don't do technology well, but they wanted to see that this was going to get practical very quickly. They wanted to see that it wasn't going to take 2 years to create results for clients. They wanted extraordinary results for clients, right away from this. So this is where the partnership with Esri really came in. We got great partnership out of the team, and they allowed us to do some things, even with demo license for clients, and we were out there doing all kinds of stuff and using the story map. The story map sort of became the face of the whole project for a while, and we were able to show that, hey, look, we'll be able to quickly use this and make this applicable. So story maps were a big part of the overall process for us. The other thing, besides the story map, that really put us over the hump and got people excited was we created our own internal brand. And yes, it seems a little bit gimmicky because out of the box, most of this is just Esri products and stuff, but there's a lot of custom development planned and different things coming in the future. So we felt okay branding this thing Dimension, and we even created a little hype video that I sort of say is like the video that plays on the screen before the basketball team comes out, and there's like flames shooting up and smoke everywhere. And so we had this great video for Dimension, and it showed a bunch of maps and technologies and everything. And I don't think anyone knew what it was at the end, but they were really excited, right? So they were ready to go. And so between story maps and creating the brand and getting a lot of energy around this, that sort of got us over that last little bit of OPEX budgeting approval. So we got all that done, and we signed the contract in the spring finally, and so that's where we are today. We've got through the planning, and we're in the US rollout, so we're running all over the country, doing a lot of training and educating users and getting license out there. We still have a long way to go. There's definitely a lot to do with our data strategy and custom development, making this applicable to more than site selection. Site selection's, very easy with GIS to sort of make it applicable, but getting it into our other business lines will be important. And then, everybody, realizes the challenges to really make something like this global between, data and technology and just different cultural changes with how you do business in different countries. So that's where we are today. And so I'd like to kind of end by saying, even though we're not saving the world using GIS, we do feel like GIS and Esri is becoming a big part of our strategy to make our clients' real estate portfolios more productive and create better workplaces, which I do feel like, given the time we spend in the workplace, that does something for us culturally. So, thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Did I get to run off? Everybody else tried to run off.
Well, what I think is interesting is you said you didn't know anything about GIS and you're a terrible speaker. And on both fronts, I think you lied.
No, wrong.
Do you agree? So the amazing thing about this is, brought you up here, you called yourself Fresh Paint, all right? 18 months into this journey, and there's people in the audience from Esri, Keith, and Patrick, and John that have gone gray in the 18 months that we worked together to kind of get there. 200 revisions to actually decide to do something.
Right.
And then in the middle of it, you went, story maps.
Yes.
Why story maps?
Well, for anyone in the real estate business, you'll know it's very sales driven, right? It's a sales culture for the most part. And the story map was a great tool to put it in salespeople's hands and demonstrate the power. So that's what it really came down to. If you can prove yourself in the business development world for CBRE, then we felt like we'd be given the chance to implement the other things that we wanted to do.
Yeah. So for everybody out there, Peter's journey is a Harvard Business Review type story about selling to the executives, staying the course, and then finding a proof point. This one thing that story maps. How many of you are actually implementing story maps for your executives? Okay, my advice, and I think your advice, is go out and do it. This is one of the most powerful, innovative things we're doing. We released 3 new story maps in the past couple of months, and it's proven very successful. We have honestly a multi-million-dollar investment and relationship that's taken a lot of work to kind of get there. One last thing, this is where you've been. You have a Jack, we have a Jack. Your Jack gave you a whole new direction in April, a whole new way of thinking about it. So where's that going to go? Where do you think it's going to go?
I think for a while we're going to be changing. We're going to be learning and changing. I think we're going to be more global. I think the U.S. real estate business, the way we approach transactions and real estate portfolios and everything's going to learn a lot from the rest of the world. And we're going to evolve, and we're going to take a much more of an advisory approach. I've been hearing that for 15 years since I joined the Staubach company years ago. But, for the most part, it was brokers calling themselves advisors. I think now, to show value, you're truly having to be an advisor. I think being able to, now we have a generation of brokers who have grown up with more data and more information, more technology kind of in their pockets. So I think that's where it's sort of.
And that doesn't scare you? Going global doesn't scare you?
No. It's definitely happening. I think all of the top competitors in our industry realize that all of our clients are demanding it. So
you got to go there.
That's where I
got to be there. All right. Thank you. All right.